Okay, so you guys are taking notes today over these slides here. Okay, so these are here for your convenience. You need to be taking notes off of the video. Okay, so let's take a look at what notes you're taking. So these are notes 3 out of 4. You took notes on Monday, you took notes on Tuesday, and these are the third notes. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Levels of organization. Okay, so we're going to use the pyramid first here. So levels of organization, the basic unit of life starts with a cell. Okay, when the same types of cells work together, they make tissues. Okay, so let's say a muscle cell. Muscle cells work together to make a muscle tissue. And there's all different kinds of muscle tissues, okay? Different types of these muscle tissues, different types, okay, work together to make an organ. Your heart is made out of muscle tissues. So your heart is an organ. And this organ is a part of a bigger category. The heart works with blood vessels, the blood. Your heart works with a lot of different things in order to keep blood moving throughout your whole body. And so, with different organs working together for the same purpose or a similar purpose, we call that an organ system. So your heart would belong to, your heart belongs to 2 different systems. Muscular system, because it's a muscle, but it also belongs to the circulatory system because it helps to circulate blood throughout your body. And we'll talk more about that in an upcoming unit, actually. Then the very next level up here is all the organ systems working together to keep this organism alive. The organism is at the top of these levels. So we go from the most basic unit to the most complex unit. Okay, more complex. And so up, the reason why we use a pyramid, the further we go up the pyramid, there's less in number. Okay, so let's say here in this classroom. Okay, how many cells are in here? Well, there's trillions of cells in here because I have trillions of cells. Okay, how many organisms are in this classroom? It's just me. There's only one. Okay, so as you go up, there's less and less. On this other side here, we have whether it's complicated or simple. Okay, so down here, the most basic unit of life. It's about as simple for living things as it's going to get. Okay, and then the higher we go up, it's getting more and more complicated. Us as an organism, as a person, we're very, very complicated creatures. Okay, there's a lot going on. So the higher up you go, it gets complicated. Okay. So let's see. Let's talk about this. Let's look at the most basic level. What is down here? The most basic unit of life. It's so big down here because there's more. Think about here in the classroom. What is there more of? We talked about this. There's cells. There's a lot of cells in here. Even there's only one of me. Now I'm up at the top. Cells work together to make tissues. Tissues are working together to make organs. Different organs are working together for a similar purpose. Okay? Those are called organ systems. It's a system of organs. And then when all of the organ systems are working together, that's the organism. Now on this side, as we go up, okay, remember there's just one of me in this classroom, but there's trillions of cells. I have trillions of cells. So the higher we go up is more or less in number. It's less in number, okay? The more we go down, this is the complicated side. Is it more complicated up top or more complicated at the bottom? The more we go down, 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 down this pyramid, it gets less complicated. It's more simple at the bottom. So let's practice. Let's look at this image and you tell me if it's a plant or animal. It's an animal. And then you're going to tell me what level it's at. Is that animal at a cell level? That picture? Is a picture a cell, a tissue, an organ system, or an organism? Well, that little guy is an animal for one, and it's the whole shebang. Everything's working together. So it's an animal organism. The level is organism. Okay? So what level is this? Well, this is a person, so we know it's animal. Okay, we see the heart, the blood vessels. That's a system, circulatory system. We have circular cells. Circular gives it a clue that it's an animal. Okay, and we have a bunch of these cells. They all look the same. So multiple cells working together, that's a tissue. All systems working together is an organism. We have a circular unit, okay, most basic unit of structure and function. It's got all the structure it needs, and they do all the functions. They do all the jobs necessary to live. That's what it means, basic structure and function. It's an animal cell. Okay, there's a bunch of cells here, red blood cells, a bunch of cells working together. A bunch of cells working together, that's a tissue. Blood is tissue. It's considered to be a tissue. Okay, we have these angular looking cells here. That's a cell, that's a cell, that's a cell. And we have these green little things inside. These are chloroplasts. So we know this is plant. Chloroplast is only in plants. We're not green. We don't have them. And they're angular. So we have multiple cells. So we have plant tissue. Okay, so everything on top, above the ground for a plant, that is the shoot system. And everything below, underground, that's the root system. And just like us, when all systems are working together, they only have two. When all systems are working together, that's the organism. A leaf, so we know it's plant, but what level? Cell, tissue, organ system, or organism. Well, this isn't the whole organism, it would be the whole plant. Okay, or if it was an organ system, it would be the whole complete top or the whole complete bottom portion of the plant. Is it an organ? Yes, a leaf is an organ. So when you pick a leaf from a plant, you're picking an organ off of a plant. Leave those organs alone. They need to photosynthesize. This is a plant cell. This is organs working together to help this bird breathe. It's a system. It's the respiratory system. Stomach. A stomach would be an organ. A stomach is an organ. The flower. The flower is not the whole plant. It's just one portion of the plant. The flower is an organ of a plant. So you pick a flower, you're picking an organ off of a plant. We have these long, narrow cells working together. So this is a tissue. That's muscle tissue. A little bud. This is before it opens up as a flower. So if a flower is an organ, what do you think a bud is? That is an organ too. Our brain, organ. Okay, so that's it for that one. So now let's talk about photosynthesis. Okay. So there's a couple things we need to know about photosynthesis. We need to know what type of energy does it start with and what type of energy does it wind up being. So reactant energy, product energy, okay? Photosynthesis is a process that converts water and carbon dioxide into food and oxygen, glucose and oxygen, okay? So we start off with radiant energy from the sunlight. Radiant is movement energy, so that's why it's kinetic energy. It's a movement, motion energy. Okay? And then we wind up with chemical. It's a stored energy, potential. It's just waiting to be used. Like, wow, it's got a lot of potential. Just waiting to do something good. It's got a lot of stored energy, and that energy is stored in the glucose. Okay? This glucose is stored in the leaf. Okay, until the plant uses it or until something eats the plant. And then that energy gets converted into mechanical energy, thermal energy, all different kinds of energies in our body. Okay, all of this happens in the leaf. Photosynthesis happens in the leaf. which is an organ. So what plant organ does photosynthesis happen in? It happens in the leaf. Now, more specifically, it happens in the cells, and more specific than that, it happens in the chloroplast. Chloroplasts are organelles inside of plant cells. Only plants have this, okay? Chloroplast can't do its job without chlorophyll. Phil is a hard-working guy, okay? Chlorophyll is the one that's absorbing all of the sunlight to fuel this whole process. So without Phil, the hard-working chlorophyll, without chlorophyll absorbing that sunlight, chloroplast couldn't do its job, okay? So our reactants, it's basically like the ingredients if you want to think of baking a cake. What do we need for this process to happen? The plant needs water, so that's why there's roots in the ground to suck up the water, just like straws, that's how they act. And carbon dioxide. Plants love for us to talk to them because we're breathing all over them and we're breathing our carbon dioxide all over them. Plants love to be talked to because they get our carbon dioxide and then they get the water from the roots. Those are the reactants, okay? And then the products, after the chemical change happens, we get glucose, which is, it stays stored in the leaf, and then oxygen, which gets released into the atmosphere, which we can use. So plants love our carbon dioxide, and we love the oxygen that they give off, okay? So on the left side, we have reactants. We need the sun, which is radiant kinetic energy. The plant needs water and carbon dioxide in order to do the photosynthesis process. That process happens in the leaf, more specifically in the chloroplast. And the chloroplast could do its job without Phil, good old Phil, chlorophyll, absorbing that sunlight. And then once that change happens, that radiant energy, the kinetic energy, the movement energy, radiant energy from the sun gets transformed into chemical energy, a stored energy. And that stored energy is stored in the sugar, in the glucose. Where does that glucose go? It stays in the leaf. It stays here. The oxygen, on the other hand, gets released out into the atmosphere. Okay. What type of cell does photosynthesis happen in? Okay, it happens in plant cells. And plants are eukaryotes. They have a nucleus. Eukaryotes, you are eukaryote. You know, our animal cells have a nucleus as well. Plant cells have nucleus. Animal cells have nucleus. Okay. Now, in this plant cell, more specifically, where does photosynthesis occur? It happens in the chloroplast. The chloroplast is an organelle. The reactants, before photosynthesis happens, what does the plant need in order to do photosynthesis? It needs water and carbon dioxide, and it needs that sunlight, that radiant energy in order to fuel the whole process. And then once this chemical reaction has occurred, what do we get out of it? The plant gets glucose to use and survive with, and then that glucose gets stored so animals can eat it and get energy. We also get oxygen out of it, so we get our energy to live, and then we get oxygen to breathe. Thank you, plants. And then here's the chemical equation, okay? Just like a recipe, you can't just say, throw some eggs and flour in a bowl and then throw it in the oven. You have to make some measurements. So how much water do we need? How much carbon dioxide do we need? We need 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, or not we, the plant does. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water. Okay? Just like we're measuring to bake a cake. Then the sun's energy, which could be the oven, it does this change. And if we were baking a cake, we would have all these raw materials, eggs and flour, and then the oven would bake it, and then we would get a cake out of it. Well, in photosynthesis, we have 6 carbon dioxide and 6 water, and then the sun's energy transforms it inside the chloroplast into 1 molecule of glucose, okay? and 6 molecules of oxygen. 6 molecules of oxygen gets released out into the atmosphere for us to breathe. Okay. Energy transformation. What does it start as? It starts as radiant energy from the sun, and that's a motion energy, so that's kinetic. And then once photosynthesis is done, it is transformed into a chemical energy, a stored energy in the glucose. And a stored energy is potential. It's just waiting to be used. Okay. So these are the notes you're taking for today. That's what in these slides. And keep all your notes situated and organized, and so that way you can use them for your test. Okay? You guys have a good day. Thank you.